Hello all and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going through the Unearthed Arcana Playtest Packet 6 for Dungeons & Dragons' 2024 Rules Revision to 5th edition. And yes, that is an absolute mouthful. But speaking of mouthfuls, we're going to be going through the Bard today. On my previous video about the Monk class, I got this comment right here. That highlighted a kind of curious thing, but we're going to be trying to go into the Bard class here as open-minded as possible and see what the Wizards of Seattle are going to be trying to sell us in 2024. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. Alright, the Bard class. Primary ability, Charisma. Invoking magic through music, dance, and verse. Bards are an expert at inspiring others, soothing hurts, and disheartening foes, and creating illusions. Bards believe that the creators of the multiverse spoke and signed it into existence, and that remnants of those words of creation still resound and glimmer on every plane of existence. The magic of bards is an attempt to harness those words, which transcend any language, and direct them to create new wonders. Okay, so with these first couple paragraphs, they're telling me a lot about how they're handling what bard magic is in the official D&D 5e ecosystem and generic setting, which I personally believe to be the Forgotten Realms, but that's a whole video for another day. I'm just curious. I'm going to open up the player's handbook here because I want to see what they're defining bard magic as there, because I feel like this is a bit of a departure. Okay, so the bard. Humming as she traces her fingers over an ancient monument in a long-forgotten ruin, a half-elf in rugged leathers finds knowledge springing into her mind, conjured forth by the magic of her song. Knowledge of the people who constructed the monument and the mythic saga it depicts. A stern human warrior bangs his sword rhythmically against his scale mail, setting the tempo for his war chant and exhorting his companions to bravery and heroism. The magic of his song fortifies and emboldens them. Laughing as she tunes her cittern, a gnome weaves her subtle magic over the assembled nobles, ensuring that her companions' words will be well received. Whether scholar, skald, or scoundrel, a bard weaves magic through words and music to inspire allies, demoralize foes, manipulate minds, create illusions, and even heal wounds. Okay, so I understand what they're going for with this primer to the Bard class, because the 2014 one here that I just read seems to be focused primarily on music and rhythm instead of all artistry. I mean, even in the beginning of the Bard here, they call out music, dance, and verse. So this is... So I am all for having the Bard be a more all-around artisan class. I'm not sure that this is how I personally really appreciate how the Bard is worded as far as bardic magic, where they are tapping into powers of creation, sort of like this Old Testament Christian mythological god, versus being able to soothe and understand the hearts and minds of an audience and being able to have that spark ignite creation and passion and all sorts of things. I'm hesitant on this, but once again, it's opening text. It can be written a million different ways, and I'm certain that it's going to get probably at least a couple revisions. Oh wow, there's actually a whole lot more. Okay, so let's read that before we go too hard on that first opening paragraph. Okay, because the words of creation resonate throughout the cosmos, different bards choose different approaches to their magic. Some bards practice their arts in temples or monasteries, drawing on the power of the outer planes to channel divine magic. Others listen to a bird song and the music of the world, associate with druid circles, and wield primal magic. Still others immerse themselves in the study of magical lore, collecting scraps of mystic knowledge wherever the journeys take them as they master the secrets of arcane magic. Ultimately, though, these various paths converge as the most accomplished bards learn to access almost the entire breadth of magical potential. Anything can inspire a new song or tale, so bards are fascinated by almost everything. They have a wide-ranging knowledge of many subjects and develop an aptitude to do almost anything well. Bards become masters of many things, including performing music, working magic, and making jests. Not every singer or poet in a tavern or jester in a royal court is a bard. Harnessing the words of creation requires hard work and some measure of natural talent, as most troubadours and jongleurs lack. A bard's life is spent wandering across the land, gathering lore, telling stories, and living on the gratitude of audiences, much like any other entertainer. But bards' depth of knowledge and mastery of magic sets them apart. Okay, so that really kind of says a lot of the same things that were in that opening thesis statement. It expands upon it more. I find it very interesting that they call out the divine, the primal, and the arcane, which that's going to be I'm interested to see why they're doing that. So we're going to go ahead and, let's just go ahead and into the design notes and see what's going on here. Design notes, Bard updates. Bardic Inspiration returned to its 2014 form with the following changes. Bardic Inspiration die is used in response to failing a D20 test. You no longer have to guess whether you failed. A creature is up to an hour, not just 10 minutes to use the die. Okay. You no longer have to guess whether you failed. I can see why that is useful, but with like social circumstances and such, where you're having a conversation, you want to just kind of magically enhance yourself to have more charm, more persuasion or anything. I think having this be whether you only firing on a failure removes the different levels of success for a test. So it just turns anything into a pass-fail challenge. So, I mean, like, once you succeed, you're basically, you can't choose to expend the Bardic Inspiration die to succeed a little bit better or to pass another barrier to... I don't know. I personally like to have... like social challenges in my games be a very low chance of failure, but with multiple different levels of response. So if you fail, the target is just not interested with you, but there's like, they're not interested, but they could be swayed over to your side with further die rolls, as basically turning the encounter into a sort of extended skill check or a skill challenge for the entire party or those who are present. One thing I'm going to be interested in seeing is if it fires automatically when you fail, because I feel like that takes away some of the player agency to choose to spend a Bardic Inspiration die, or if it's still a choice, or if you can still fail it voluntarily. The healing option in previous playtest was removed. Healing option was encouraging too much usage hoarding, which resulted in the bard not being able to use... Okay, yeah, no, I'm not 100% sure what that was, because we'll go ahead and scroll back to that as we're doing each individual ability, just so we can see how the game has chosen to update the bard. But not knowing fully what this ability is that they're referencing pulling out, I like the premise, because if it encourages resource hoarding, and the bard doesn't end up using their bardic inspiration, what's the point of them having it? Okay. So, oh wow, that's a lot of different, a lot of different abilities. Spellcasting has 2 noteworthy changes. Each bard gets to choose whether to use arcane, divine, or primal spell lists. Okay, so that's probably why they were calling it out at the top, and I actually really, I think I'm down for that. I do like that, the fact that they can choose which spell list they use. Yeah. I personally think of the bard more as of just kind of a classical arcane spellcaster. But no, like if you had like a choir boy bard or something like that, a divine spellcasting list makes sense. I'm not 100% sure about primal. They mentioned like training with druids or spending time in nature. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is Feywild, but maybe that's just the limits of my creativity here. And so no, I'm perfectly fine with the idea that you get to choose your spell list. Spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slot, so that was something I heard a lot of comments about with the previous one. First change leans into the fact that bard might have learned their arts in different contexts. Second change was widely requested in the playtest feedback. Yeah, heard that stuff. Jack of all trades, bard. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just kind of jump straight on into the bard's actual abilities here. So they are still 1d8. As far as the class goes, that makes sense. Saving throws are dexterity and charisma. Skills, yada yada yada. It looks basically the same, if not exactly the same. Okay, bard class features. First level, bardic inspiration. You can supernaturally inspire others through words, music, or dance. This inspiration is represented by your bardic inspiration die, which is a d6. Using bardic inspiration. As a bonus action, you can inspire another creature within 60 feet of yourself who can see or hear you. That creature gains 1 of your bardic inspiration dice. A creature can only have 1 bardic inspiration die at a time. Once within the next hour, when the creature fails a d20 test. Is that a hyperlink? No, it's not. Okay. Once within the next hour, when a creature fails a d20 test, the creature can roll that die and add the number rolled to the d20, potentially turning the failure into a success. A bardic inspiration die is expended when it's rolled. Okay, I'm down. Number of uses. You can confer a bardic inspiration die a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of once. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So a maxed out bard would have like a +5 charisma. So that's going to be the same at first level as it is at 20th level, assuming you don't have any magic items or something that is going to increase your charisma maximum score. So 5 bardic inspiration uses per long rest. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same as it was in the 2014 book, but that still feels it feels low. Bardic inspiration, creature can have only 1 at a time. Number of times equal to charisma modifier, minimum of once. You regain any expended uses when you finish a long rest. So that is fundamentally the exact same, but I am much more of a fan of getting stuff back on short rests. So I think a better way to do this would be to have it tied to your proficiency bonus. So you get proficiency bonus per short rest. So that way, I mean, I know that's going to scale essentially significantly more, because at 20th level, then you get 6 bardic inspiration dice per short rest, but that's also not going to punish you for having a low charisma score, and it's going to allow you to gain more uses as you continue adventuring, having more stories to tell, and essentially becoming a font of inspiration, which maybe is an ability later on here, because I know it is in the 2014 book. I think that works better just because it relies based on the developing technology that Wizards has been putting through since I think it's since around Tasha's, but using your proficiency bonus as a core ability mechanic scaling tool. So they did mention in there that they changed Bardic Inspiration in a previous version. I'm interested in seeing what they did. So that was in playtest packet number 2, I see from my post-it note here. So that's our expert classes. So let's go ahead and just jump right over to Bardic Inspiration as an ability in this playtest packet. Okay, Bardic Inspiration. You can supernaturally expire... Okay, so same function, using your Bardic Inspiration D6. You can use your Bardic Inspiration die in the following ways. Boost a D20 test. When another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear fails a D20 test. So this is still triggering on a failure. You can use your reaction to give the creature a Bardic Inspiration die. The creature rolls that die and adds the number rolled to the D20, potentially turning the failure into a success. So I don't like this being a reaction. I think that inspiration, the whole idea is that you plant an idea in someone's mind, and then that comes back around when the creature chooses to spend the die. So if you're using it as a reaction, you're seeing this person just fail miserably, essentially, at a D20 test. And so you pull out your lute, strum a couple chords, and all of a sudden they're doing better because they hear you playing. I mean, I guess that kind of... I'm not a huge fan of this. I like to put the agency in the player who is choosing to spend the Bardic Inspiration die, instead of having their success be wholly dependent on the bard spending a reaction. So, as far as that, I actually do think... I mean, this is essentially what got put forward into Playtest Packet 6, with the exception that they pulled out the reaction clause here, and... Yeah, no, they kept the... It has to be on a failure. I think it just makes sense to say when they make a D20 test, they can use your reaction. Sorry, you can use a Bardic Inspiration die that you have been given as a bonus action, or as like part of an attack or something. I think that would be going forward and actually building on the Bardic Inspiration ability. I think it would be really cool to see different subclasses that can give Bardic Inspiration dies as part of making an attack for like the College of Swords, or something like that. So it's not you have to use a bonus action. You can just do it as part of taking another action. And then the other one here is Heal. And this is the one that they immediately removed because it was causing resource hoarding in their playtests. Immediately after another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear takes damage, you can use your reaction, once again I don't like the reaction, to roll your Bardic Inspiration die and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled. So yeah, no, from a fundamental standpoint, that would just be turning the bard into a healer, where as soon as a creature takes damage, they can just throw their reaction and you get a d6 hit points back. I think a better way to do this would be maybe to tie cutting words into Bardic Inspiration. So like if you have a Bardic Inspiration die, you can do it like a cutting words type of maneuver where you decrease damage dealt to you by the Bardic Inspiration die. I think that might work a little bit better than to have it be just the bard reacting to heal. But once again, I'm going to be interested in seeing what cutting words looks like in probably across these different versions. Yeah, and so looks like same kind of thing. Oh no, they actually did change the number of uses here. It was number of times equal proficiency bonus on a long rest. So at lower levels, that's 2 per long rest. That's way too few. Like if I'm thinking that 5 is too few on a long rest, 2 is absolutely too few. But then it goes up to 6 per long rest. without magic items, of course. Proficiency bonus per short rest. That's my thing. That is the hill I am going to die on. That I think it should be proficiency bonus per short rest instead of anything else like that. Or if you really want to do something kind of funky, have it be hit dice based. Now, what I'm saying with that is you have your 5 Bardic Inspiration dice, if we're really going to go with base it off of your charisma. And then you spend some of them, you take a short rest, and you gain half of them back. You gain half of your expended ones back, rounded down. And so that way you kind of have a push your luck mechanic, where you're still always going to be rolling initiative with some Bardic Inspiration dice that you've gained back, but you also can get them back on a short rest so that there's social encounters beforehand. You can throw dice around as well. So yeah, no, like hit dice on a long rest, you recover half of your spent hit dice. And so like it eventually does get you all the way up, but it still takes, I think, 2 whole long rests in order to, yeah, it's half your maximum. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but you get half of your maximum back that are expended. So I think that would be a decent way to do Bardic Inspiration, just because that way, if you're doing it on a short rest, you're always going to have at least half of your total number of uses. And so that way, if we're really basing it on charisma, the more charismatic you are, the more Bardic Inspiration you're going to be able to use going forward in combat, and you're tying it to a more rechargeable and more usable manner than the long rest. So instead of getting 5 charges once per day, you gain 5 charges, then you can take a short rest, then you have 2 charges plus any that were left over, and then so it does deplete throughout the day as you're continuing to use your Bardic Inspiration. And so that kind of feeds into the whole idea of you're continually writing different things, and eventually you just kind of stagnate a little bit. Like, okay, I need to take a break, I need to recharge my memory, I need to think up new material. I don't know, I think that kind of fits into the fantasy of the Bard a little bit more, just to have them be a short rest based core mechanic class. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and jump back to playtest packet 6 here and see if there's anything unusual. So Bardic Inspiration, Charisma modifier minimum of 1, long rest. Fine. That's a very D&D thing where it's just you gain all the charges back on a long rest. At higher levels, I think that's the exact same as the PHB. Goes D6 to D8 at 5th level, D10 at 10th level, D12 at 15th. Okay, and then at higher levels here, Bardic Inspiration die changes when you reach certain Bard levels, as shown on the column of the table. D8 at 5th level, D10 at 10th level, D12 at 15th. So I think that's a good way of having just your abilities scaling, whatnot. So I think that's fine. I think this is also setting the groundwork for what the comment at the beginning of the video said, where a Bard of the Dance can deal unarmed strikes that are better than a monk at lower levels, which is wrong. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump out of potential musing for future abilities and talk about spellcasting. Okay. So, actually, before I jump into spellcasting on here, let's go ahead and look at the previous one just to see if there's really anything that... Right, this one had that sort of Vancian thing where your spellcasting preparation is tied to the spell slots that you have. So let's go ahead and read this, knowing that it gets removed. Prepared spells. You have the following spells prepared. So these ones are just automatic. I like how that you have Vicious Mockery always prepared, because that is the core bard spell. Alternatively, you can prepare 2 0-level spells and 2 1st-level. Any spell you must prepare for the class must be arcane from one of the following schools. Okay, so first and foremost, I really don't like this first paragraph here, because you're saying it has to be an arcane spell from one of the following schools of magic. So this is essentially just recreating what a bard spell list is. So like the wizard gets the arcane spell list. Is like this is classic 2014 stuff where each class has its own unique spell list. So this is saying, oh no, we're going to go ahead and do arcane, divine, and primal spell lists. But as far as the bard goes, you always have these spells prepared, whether or not they're on your spell list or not. I'm pretty sure those all are arcane spells, and if they aren't, what are you doing, Wizards of the Coast? But then you also have the limitation of arcane spells to just these certain schools, essentially creating a limited arcane spell list specifically for the bard. I really don't like that. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace spells that you have prepared for arcane spell of the same level, abiding by school restriction above. Fine. Higher levels, you can prepare more spells as shown on the table. Numbers there determine the number of different spells you can prepare of each level. A 3rd level bard, you can prepare 2 different 0-level spells, 4 different 1st level, 2 different 2nd level. I don't hate this. You know what this feels like to me? This feels like someone who is like a quarter caster or a 1/3 caster, where they can tap into a certain number of spells per day, and it's like a tertiary, like a secondary or tertiary ability for them. Like they have their core mechanic, but they are a spellcaster much later on. Like they are picking up different little bits of magic. Like this is a cool thing that I think would work pretty decently on like a ranger, where your big thing is you are a fighter of nature, etc., etc. And then also you have spellcasting kind of tacked on at later levels. So I think that the idea of tying your spell preparation to the spell levels that you have would work better if spellcasting isn't going to be a primary focus for your class. In other ideas, once again, bards are artists. They always have, like, the kind of idea is that they would have like different canvases or different books and notes and such. So I honestly feel like having an ability that's similar, maybe a little weaker than the wizard's spell book, would also work, just so that you can have different spells added and learned. Like if they're going with the whole idea of having essentially a bard's spell list where it is a diminished arcane spell list that only works for certain classes, being able to have a bard who can then increase their repertoire by finding spells in the wild, by tapping into and copying down scrolls like a wizard from other arcane spell lists, or even tapping into other spell lists like the divine or primal, I think that would actually also work to fit the class identity a little bit more. But this has kind of been just a jump to the past, so let's see how they updated and changed it in Playtest Packet 6, since we went away from that whole preparing based on spell levels, which, once again, I think is a good idea. Okay, so you have learned to cast spells through your bardic arts. As far as just sentence structure goes here, they keep going back to bardic arts. I feel like bardic arts almost should be an ability, or at least they're referring to it in such a way that it seems like it would be an ability. See the player's handbook for the rules on spellcasting. The information below details how you use those rules as a bard. Chosen spell list. At first level, choose a spell list, arcane, divine, or primal. The chosen list is your bard spell list and represents your magical tradition in which you learned your bardic arts. Whichever list you choose, it includes the Vicious Mockery cantrip for you. Yes, I like this. This is really good. No notes. I like the ability that you can choose your spell list, because that kind of fits into the whole bard is a skill monkey kind of thing, and they are the skill monkey spellcaster. The rogue is your skill monkey fighter type, where they can basically they're jack of all trades kind of thing. And I know that's literally the ability that's right here, but we're going to come to that. No, chosen spell list works really well as far as bard identity in my mind. Cantrips. You know 2 cantrips of your choice from the bard spell list. What? Oh, from your bard spell list. Okay, so the chosen list is your bard spell list. Fine, that works for me. I read bard spell list and my mind just blanked. I'm like, I thought we were getting away from this, but no. Chosen spell list from. I think it would be easier to say 2 cantrips of your choice from your chosen spell list. But once again, that's me being an English major nitpicking the work of a multi-billion-dollar company. Whatever. Whenever you gain a bard level, you can replace one of your cantrips with another cantrip of your choice from your chosen spell list. When you reach 4th and 10th level in this class, you learn another cantrip of your choice, as shown in the cantrips column of the bard table. Good. If they didn't have that, I was going to be disappointed, because this feels like a very, you just know the, you know the chart. Cantrips known, boom. Done, nice and easy. Okay. From there, yeah, right, that was cantrips. Spell slots. The bard table shows how many spell slots you have to cast your spells of 1st level or higher. To cast one of these spells, you must expend one preparing spells of 1st level. This looks basically the same. Regain all when you finish a long rest. To start, choose 4 1st level from your spell list. Number of spells on your list increases as you gain levels. Whenever that number increases, choose additional spells. Till the number of your spells matches the number on the table. Must be of level for which you have spell slots. Yeah, this seems... This is core spellcasting mechanics. This is nothing unusual here. Changing your prepared spells. Whenever you gain a bard level, you can replace one spell on your list with another spell for which you have spell slots, and that is on your bard spell list. I once again think that it should be chosen spell list, but that's going to be an anthill I die on. Spellcasting ability, charisma, no kidding. Spellcasting focus, you can use a musical instrument as a spellcasting focus for the spells you cast with your bard features. I like that. That's a nice little touch. So that's spellcasting. Let's go ahead and just take a quick jump up to the table here, see if there's anything that immediately stands out as crazy. Okay, so prepared spells, you start at 4 and you go to a maximum of 22, unless you multi-class or get like different things, but like from a base level 4 to 22. Okay. 2 1st level slots at 1st level to a lot of slots at 20th. So no, that makes sense. Nothing here jumps out at my brain as unusual. Just kind of basic cantrip progression. Okay, I mean, works for me. Let's go ahead and jump into the next feature here, expertise. Gain expertise in 2 of your skill proficiencies of your choice. Performance and persuasion are iconic choices for a bard if you have proficiency in them. As far as wording here goes, having this sort of quick build built into the ability is something that I quite like, where they say you gain expertise in 2 of your choice. Most bards have these 2, but like feel free to go along with that style or don't. It's completely your choice. I like having quick build options kind of built into the class itself. A+ in my book. I mean, it's expertise. It's the same thing that the bard has in 2014. Right? Oh, at 3rd level. So they actually brought it down a level. So this is bringing it in line with the rogue, if I recall correctly. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I have a couple different systems bouncing around in my brain, especially as I'm working on designing my own. So take my comparisons to other classes with a bit of a grain of salt. So hang on, let's take a look here. Expertise in 2 skill proficiencies of your choice at 2nd level. I wonder if that's going to go up at around 10th level, or actually if they keep with this 1 level lower at 9th. But actually, yeah, let's go ahead and check for that. 8th level, 9th level, you gain expertise in 2 of your skill proficiencies. Okay, so it's just bringing expertise down 1 level option. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Okay, 2nd level ability, Jack of all trades. You can add half your proficiency bonus, round down, to any ability check you make that requires a skill proficiency you lack that doesn't otherwise use your proficiency bonus. For example, if you make a strength athletics check and lack athletics proficiency, you can add half your proficiency bonus to the check. Okay. Let's just go ahead and read. I think they're going... Man, I can't speak. I think that this is fundamentally the same way that the 2014 one works, but I think they kind of clunkied up the language. So the 2014 book here states, starting at 2nd level, you can add half your proficiency bonus, rounded down, to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. I don't know why they have to add so many extra words, because you can only add expertise to something that you're proficient in. So I'm just a little bit confused as to why they added so many extra words here when it was a really nice, clean ability in 2014. So we're going to be coming back to Bard's subclasses, but as a preview, they are the College of Dance, which is the one that I have heard raised the red flag, College of Glamour, College of Lore, that's the classic Bard one, and College of Valor. Subclasses are detailed after description, blah, blah, blah. Ability score improvement, that's the exact same as it was with the Monk, and it seems with all other ones. You gain the ability score improvement feat or another feat of your choice for which you qualify. Like the language, all works out nice. 5th level, Font of Inspiration. You now also regain all your expended uses of Bardic Inspiration when you finish a short rest. Okay. In addition, if you have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you can give yourself 1 use by expending a spell slot, no action required. You can do so only once per turn. Okay, so I like the fact that they're giving it all to you on a short rest now. So that means a lot of my rambling and theory crafting about the Bardic Inspiration ability is now corrected here. So since we're basing it on the charisma modifier, short rest works fine. That almost gets into the realm of maybe having a lot of Bardic Inspiration if you have a +5 to your charisma modifier. I think it also works well if you would tie it to proficiency bonus, since why wouldn't you? But no, Font of Inspiration being when you finish a short rest, you gain all your expended uses back, fixes all of the questions that I had, and it does make for a decent 5th level ability. So that way you just start spewing inspiration from you. You have more adventures behind you. Fine. Hang on. Let's take a look at this in addition part. If you have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you can give yourself 1 use by expending a spell slot. So it's any spell slot for 1 use, once per turn. At least they're not capping this in any way other than capping it by the number of spell slots that you have. I think that it could be balanced a little bit more in the favor of you gain a number of Bardic Inspiration uses back equal to the level of the spell slot that was expended up to your Bardic Inspiration maximum, which would be based on Charisma modifier, so up to your Charisma modifier. So that way it's just like once you have a 5th level spell, because I mean 5th level here you have access to a 3rd level spell. So is one use of Bardic Inspiration equal to a Fireball if you choose the Arcane spell list? I don't think so. Is 3 uses of Bardic Inspiration equal to a Fireball? Maybe this is a rougher analogy, but once again, it's better. It's a better trade-off. Okay, 6th level you gain a subclass feature. 7th level you gain Counter Charm. You can use the musical notes or words of power to disrupt mind-influencing effects. If you or a creature within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw against an effect that applies the charmed or frightened condition, you can use your reaction to cause the save to be re-rolled, and the new roll has advantage. Is this Silvery Barbs? If you or a creature within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw against some... So this is a limited Silvery Barbs to only against those 2 conditions. And it's specifically specifying that the advantage has to be taken on the reroll. Wait. Well, no, it's not quite Silvery Barbs because it's not a contested ability, but it functionally like rings in my mind as this is what that is. I don't dislike it. I mean, I think Silvery Barbs as a spell is fun to use, but it is horribly damaging to the game meta. So I do like having it as a bard ability because it feels like something a bard would have. I do like it here in this limited capacity where it's not just any saving throw, it's not just any attack roll, any d20 test, and basically rewriting fate for the die. I think that Counter Charm here at 7th level is a better Silvery Barbs as far as mechanically balancing it. Yeah. No, 7th level Counter Charm, I quite like it. Let's just take a quick peek at what Counter Charm was before. At 6th level, you gain the ability to use musical notes or words of power to disrupt mind-influencing effects. As an action, you can start a performance that lasts until the end of your next turn. During that time, you and any friendly creatures within 30 feet of you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. Creature must also be able to hear you to gain this effect. This performance ends early if you're incapacitated or silenced, or if you voluntarily end it, no action required. So it basically is an aura effect. So we're trading an aura effect for an immediate interrupt with a reaction. I think that this 7th level Counter Charm... Now note, they are pushing this up a level because the 2014 player handbook put it at 6th level, but for the amount of power increase for this Counter Charm, I think that is completely reasonable. I actually really like this 7th level ability here. 8th level, you gain another ability score improvement. I'll say the same thing that I said in the Monk. When this goes to print, I hope that they just kind of load this all into one ability that triggers on multiple levels instead of having each header for every single level. But that's just me being a formatting kind of guy. 9th level, you gain 2 more expertise, as we mentioned above. 10th level, magical secrets. You have collected magical knowledge from your wide spectrum of disciplines. As a result, your bard spell list now includes the arcane, divine, and primal... spell lists. Nope. No. 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 No, no, no. No, no, no. That's... No. Just... No. Absolutely not. Hang on, let's go ahead and see how the previous Unearthed Arcana did this, because this is stupid and I don't like it. Magical secrets. You have collected magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. Choose a spell list. Whenever you prepare spells for this class, up to 2 of the spells you prepare from the chosen list and from any school of magic. So they're getting rid of the School of Magic restriction, which is nice. And then you just choose any spell list. Okay, so this is not great. So, magical secrets, what are you in this previous book? At 10th level, you have plundered magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. Choose 2 spells from any class, including this one. A spell you choose must be of a level you can cast as shown on the bard table, or a cantrip. The chosen spells count as bard spells for you and are included in the number in the spells known column of the bard table. You learn 2 additional spells from any class at 14th level and again at 18th level. So, Playtest Packet 2, this is nice and clunky. From a fundamental standpoint, it works the same as... or at least it works very similar in my mind as what the 2014 one is. I don't like the way it is worded here. They also pushed it up a level, which... why? I mean, I know it's because of subclass standardization, but... We're talking abilities here, not overall game mechanics rewrites. Actually, no, we are doing that as well, but... magical secrets here. This just gives the bard every spell in the game, with the exception of those that are class specific. That's more powerful than the wizard, who is the one you would expect to have every spell in the game. And I don't think the wizard should have every spell in the game. So by process of deduction and all that, the bard absolutely shouldn't have every spell in the game as an option. But I like the ability of the 2014 book where they have the chance to learn spells that they would not otherwise have. Go back to the note in the spellcasting thing of the bard having a spellbook style mechanic if you're like cutting down their arcane spell list by school. No, this is overpowered. I really don't like this. It doesn't further the bard identity within D&D. This is one of those things where I legitimately think the 2014 Player's Handbook does this ability better. Magical secrets. You have plundered different magical knowledges. You can weave them into your spells better. That's not what this is. This is just saying you've collected a lot of random magical stuff, which, for one, we don't have the mechanics to do that. That would be if you had like a spellbook mechanic. You can collect magical knowledge from multiple different disciplines. You can collect it from the arcane list. I love the idea that you can choose your spell list, because that is going to greatly impact and influence what kind of a bard you are, what kind of abilities you have. It adds to the core identity of your character, and that versatility is fantastic for the bard as a class. All of that versatility now is completely gone at 10th level because you just automatically get everything. This is a terrible ability, and it should just go back to the 2014 way. That's my notes. Any goodwill that was earned by any goodwill and class identity that was earned in changing spellcasting for the bards that you choose your list has now completely flown out of the window and is completely and utterly meaningless by just giving the bard everything. Okay, so let's move on to the next ability. Do we not get anything at 11th level? Okay. You already just got everything at 10th. 12th level, you get the ability score improvement. Whatever. Fine. That's just standard D&D. 14th level subclass feature. 16th level ability score improvement. 18th level superior inspiration. Let me check the table because 10th to 18th level, that feels like a pretty big jump. 10th, yeah. You just have dead levels for 11, 13, 15, and 17. I think that as a designer myself, who is cutting his teeth on designing a D&D competitor, I fundamentally think that having dead levels in your class is a symptom of bad game design. I'm willing to say it. Like, I fundamentally think that having dead levels is bad game design. Now, here's what I know that counter argument and rebuttal is going to be. 11th level, you gain your first 6th level spell. 13th level, you gain your first 7th. 15th level, you gain your first 8th. 17th level, you gain your 9th level spell. Spellcasting, using spellcasting as a crutch to gain different abilities instead of having core mechanical identity for your class means your class doesn't have identity. Think about everything that went into these first 10 levels of the Bard class, from level 1 here all the way up to level 9, because level 10 sucks. All of this builds into the idea of the Bard as this jack of all trades. The one who is like, the one who can do fundamentally any job, even if they're not, perfect at it. They have spellcasting. They are able to cast spells. They're able to reflect their past by choosing their own spell list. They're able to use that as different abilities. They have bardic inspiration, which makes them kind of this conduit of ability to, with their teammates, with their alliances and their subclasses, subclass. So it's specialization. It is breaking down the idea of the jack of all trades and turning you into a specialist. So you're going to be getting really good at certain things that you have expertise in and stuff like that. It's your bardic muses, all of that stuff helps to identify who the bard is as an individual, as a character, and as a classical fantasy archetype. Font of Inspiration makes your bardic inspiration better. Counter Charm is fundamentally its own spell. It is a way that builds on the idea of bardic inspiration, though not requiring that as an ability, and it just lets you shut down things by having presence. Magical Secrets throws any uniqueness you get from spellcasting out the door, and then they're using spellcasting as a crutch for 11th, 13th, 15th, and 17th level. So from 10th level to, we're going to have to see what 18th and 20th gives us, But at least from 10th to 17th, the bard loses any and all class identity, because you have access to any spell list. You're only gaining ability score improvements and subclass features, so you're only going to be more and more specialized into your bardic school. And you can do literally anything that any other class can do. Not necessarily better or different as you would be in previous levels. I mean, you still get all of your previous features, obviously, because it's an RPG. It's all... It is fundamentally building upon each further layer. But if you're going to have picking up a 6th level spell, a 7th level spell, an 8th level spell, a 9th level spell being the core thing that you get, at least put something small in for those classes that help reinforce the fantasy of you being a bard. Going back to Playtest Packet 2 here, with the Bardic Inspiration ability here, while I completely understand why Wizards of the Coast cut this thing back, they have, when you use your Bardic Inspiration die, you can use it in 2 different ways: boost a d20 test or heal. From a fundamental perspective, using this idea of having a list of different uses for Bardic Inspiration dice, that's all you need. Just give a new option at 11th level, give a new option at 13th level, give a new option at 15th level, give a new option at 17th level. It's not going to be something that every time is going to be completely useful, but it is going to be something that is circumstantially game-changing, and it's going to be something that allows the person who is playing a bard to feel really cool in that instance. And from what it is right now, you gain a new spell. You just gain... I really don't like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to 18th level for Superior Inspiration. Look, and you know what? Here. Right over here at the 2014 Player's Handbook. 11th level, you're right, it's a dead level. You gain the new spell. At 12th level, you gain an ability score improvement or feat. 13th level, your Song of Rest die increases. So, is that a huge boon? No, but it's still improving a core mechanic of the class. 14th is you get more magical secrets, you get your inspiration feature. Your Bardic Inspiration die goes to a D12 at 15th level. I do like the fact that they just made that a column of the table on this playtest packet. Same at 17th level. So, I mean, from a fundamental standpoint, they are next to identical, but that's still something that I have an issue with, because it's a dead level. You're not getting something clear back for your ability. You're not getting something that makes you more of a bard. You're just getting something that makes you more of a spellcaster. And these higher level abilities, like, it doesn't have to, like I was just saying, it doesn't have to be big. Just give another random use of your Bardic Inspiration die. Perhaps you can expend a Bardic Inspiration die to end the petrified condition, and you can literally inspire someone back from becoming stone, like they've been frozen by a Medusa, or like you're watching as the stony edifice is crawling across them, and you see like a tear rolling down their eye, and then your bard starts playing a song, and it inspires a will to fight, and you can immediately end that petrified condition. From a fundamental standpoint, sure, you could just cast Greater Restoration, but if you're spending a Bardic Inspiration die as a bonus action here, all of a sudden, 1, you have less Bardic Inspiration dice, but 2, you have created a really cool moment between you and that character, and it just works so much better than getting the ability to cast a new spell from any spell list. Like, all of the bards' iconic identity, all of their performative abilities, from 10th level on, it's just dead. And I really don't like that. So, without further ado, let's talk about the 18th level ability, which was previously the 20th level ability, Superior Inspiration. When you roll initiative and have no uses of Bardic Inspiration get left, you regain 2 expended uses of it. Why can't that just be the clause for Font of Inspiration? If you have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you can give yourself 1 use by you can expend a spell slot, giving yourself a number of uses equal to the spell slot expended, up to a maximum of your Charisma modifier. Additionally, when you roll initiative and have no uses of Bardic Inspiration, you gain 2 uses. For a level 18 ability that is once again, not to harp on it too much, but you are at a drought of unique bard abilities from level 9. I mean, arguably level 7, but ability score improvements and expertise kind of still fit into the whole bard thing. But level 10 gets rid of all of your bard uniqueness. So from level 10 to level 18, you're getting nothing new special about the bard. And at 18th level, you get 2 Bardic Inspiration dies back when you roll initiative. When you roll initiative the first time you have combat in that day, you probably already have maximum unless you were doing social encounters beforehand. So the only thing that I can say that this is improving upon or building it into a part of is the idea of using Bardic Inspiration dice as part of social encounters. It's trying to get you to spend them not in combat, so that you can Superior Inspiration yourself and get 2 dice back when you roll initiative. I think that, once again, rolling Superior Inspiration into your 5th level ability would help to do the exact same thing. And then, I mean, once again, then now 18th level is a dead level. So put something that makes you a really cool bard there. I don't know. I'm just a game designer. 19th level is you get an ability score improvement. I'm not even scrolling down for that. 20th level, you gain Words of Creation, this whole mystical nonsense that you get from the opening crawl text. Let's see if that's any good. Because right now I'm annoyed and not liking this rework of the class. 20th level, Words of Creation. You have mastered 2 of the prime words of creation, the words of life and death. You therefore always have the Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill spells prepared. I like that. And when you cast either spell, you can target a second creature with the spell, provided that creature is within 10 feet of the first target. Okay, I like the fact that they specified within 10 feet of the first target, because otherwise that would be stupidly powerful. I mean, this is stupidly powerful. But is it Bard? Like, this is a cleric ability. This is a cleric ability. Why is it a... I mean, because Words of Creation. Words of Creation. It's words. That's why it's a bard thing. This is a really good 20th level capstone feature. It feels like a 20th level ability. But it doesn't make me... It doesn't inspire me with the idea that this is a bard ability. So what would a max level bard ability be? What would something like that look like? Would it be no matter what, that you always have one you can't run out of bardic inspiration dice while in combat? Maybe. Would it be... I mean, I'm kind of at a mind blank here because I wasn't... What I'm thinking is this is a cleric ability fundamentally. Like, I know I was kind of doing the whole ha-ha in the beginning, kind of saying, well, this certainly feels like an Old Testament god kind of thing. But, like, prime words of creation literally is that. And that's a cleric kind of thing. That's a fundamental cleric style ability. And, I mean, on one hand, does this make the bard a better healer than a cleric? Yeah. I mean, clerics do not deserve to be boxed in as the healer archetype in the healer class, by all means, but they're usually the ones who can do the best at it. I don't like this. I don't like this class. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the subclasses here and see if they can give bardic identity to a class that sorely needs it in later levels. College of Dance. Once again, the comment. Put it in here, editing me. This is the one that undoes the entire monk class, apparently. So, let's take a look. Bards of the College of Dance know that the words of creation can't be contained within speech or even song. They are uttered by the movements of celestial bodies and flow through the motions of even the smallest creatures. I like this so far. To these bards, dance is an art, freed from the constraints of a single point in space and time. It is meaning unconfined by narrow definitions of words and structures of grammar. The College of Dance practices a way of being in harmony with the ever-whirling cosmos, emphasizing agility, speed, and grace. Cool. Third level, Dazzling Footwork. Your practice of dance gives you the ability to gracefully dodge and make agile strikes. When you aren't wearing armor or wielding a shield, you gain the following benefits. Unarmored defense. Your base armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your charisma modifier. I feel like if you're giving them an unarmored defense, there should be the clarification that your armor class equals this when you're not wearing armor or wielding shields. Or maybe wielding shields is fine. I don't remember the exact text for unarmored defense, but I feel like that's an important clarifier there. Agile strikes. When you expend a use of your bardic inspiration as a part of an action, a bonus action, or a reaction. Okay, so this is getting into one of the things that I had mentioned previously, as expending bardic inspiration as a part of an action. I do like that. You can make one unarmed strike as a part of that action, bonus action, or reaction. Okay, I'm fundamentally down. Quick question. You should have... There should be a note in there that you have to have open hands to make an unarmed strike. So wait. If you take the attack action and expend a bardic inspiration die there somehow, we haven't gotten an ability that specifically allows you to do so, but let's assume that there is an ability where you can punch someone and inspire someone else. You can just make an additional unarmed strike as a part of that. Okay. I mean, realistically here, this is going to be, I take a bonus action, I give you bardic inspiration, and then I also get to just punch somebody. I'm not opposed to that as a fundamental idea. Bardic damage. You can use dexterity instead of strength for the attack rolls of your unarmed strikes. Okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, with the whole idea of you dancing across the floor, kind of whacking someone randomly in the middle of it, that would be much more of a dexterous thing than a strength thing, I agree. For the attack rolls of unarmed strikes, and when you deal damage with an unarmed strike, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die, plus your dexterity modifier. This roll doesn't expend the die. So this is what the comment was saying that the bard gets the d12 unarmed strike die before the monk, because the monk gets it at 17th level, whereas the bard gets it at 15th level. So how do you fix this? What's a way forward for this ability here? Is it you have to step down the Bardic Inspiration die? Because I feel like that's a nerf to the class identity. Well, I mean, is it really? Throwing a Bardic Inspiration die that's a d4 instead of a d... Well, because... Okay, so that's going to decrease the average roll by about 1. Because the average roll on a d4 is 2.5, the average roll on a d6 is 3.5. So you're decreasing the average by 1 point. And that's going to... For one, that immediately makes this ability a d10 Bardic Inspiration die at 17th level, whereas the monk's is a d12. So the monk is still slightly better at punching someone because the average of a d12 is 6.5. The average of a d10 is 5.5. So there's still a 1 point separation. It makes you almost as good, but not quite. So I think that would... So, I mean, that would be a complete and utter rework of the class ability just to suit this subclass's need. I don't know if I like that as a... I don't know if I like that, but I mean, that would be a way to adjust for it. I mean, from a fundamental perspective, subclasses come after the core class. The abilities of the core bard class change when you introduce the subclass. So to change the entire core class so that one subclass is better or works better within balance, not a fan of that. So what's another way of doing this? Let's go ahead and look at Agile Strike, since this is the ability that kind of triggers that whole shindig. When you expend a use of your Bardic Inspiration as a part of an action, a bonus action, or a reaction, you can make one unarmed strike as a part of that action, bonus action, or reaction. So, perhaps, if we're not going to change the whole Bardic damage ability, I like the idea of having the damage be based on the Bardic Inspiration die. I feel like that's a good way to have this subclass feature level up and kind of increase slowly with the leveling up of your bard. I do think that that's not a bad idea. Perhaps, since this is only 5 times essentially, once again, I'm looking at the maximum here of a charisma modifier of 5. So this is 5 additional punches per short rest. So perhaps Agile Strikes, when you take the attack action as your action, you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die on a hit and take an additional attack as a part of that action. So that way you essentially get the extra attack ability That usually comes online at 5th level, and this is coming online at 3rd. Miss 5 times per. And then D6 unarmed strike damage. You can make when you take the attack action on your turn, you can make an additional attack as a bonus action. Turn it into something like 2-weapon fighting. This additional attack deals your Bardic Inspiration die damage plus your Dexterity modifier. Or how about it deals your Bardic Inspiration die and you don't get your Dexterity modifier. That way the monk still has some uniqueness left to it where you get the D12 plus your Dexterity modifier. So even though this is a D12 at an earlier level, you're not getting the Dexterity modifier. You're not getting the flat plus 3 plus 4. So even though it is still a higher die size, it's probably going to be also a lower damage roll. Because the Bard doesn't have an extra attack ability with this class. I feel like that's a decent option, where it is basically triggered as a part of taking the attack action. Then you can do the whole expend a Bardic Inspiration die as a bonus action, throw that to an ally, and then you get to make an additional attack. The attack just deals your Bardic Inspiration die instead of that of your rapier, or your scimitar, or your short sword, etc. And you don't get your Dexterity modifier. I think that might be a reasonable fix, so that you don't have to decrease the Bardic Inspiration die size to suit balancing a subclass. And then that way you also don't infringe or at least start stepping on the monk's toes by having a higher unarmed strike or higher damage dealing die at like if you were doing this as an unarmed strike, it's a little bit insulting to the monk to have a D12 before the monk does, at least in my mind. So this is going to get you your D12 beforehand, but the monk gets the flat Dexterity modifier bonus and you don't. So does it step on that class's toes a little bit? Yes. But I think by removing the Dexterity modifier to the damage roll, that reins it back in a little bit. I remember seeing an interview with Crawford and the design team, or I think it might have just been Crawford, where he was saying that subclasses in D&D are meant to give you a taste of what other classes can do. And I think that this Bardic College of Dance is giving you the taste of what it's like to be a monk. And so that's why I'm okay with the idea of you getting to use your Bardic Inspiration die as, and taking attack actions and whatnot to give you monk-ish abilities. But I think we also have to look at the class that it's being taken from and inspired by and hold it in, rein it in a little bit based on that. So also at 3rd level, you get Inspiring Movement. When an enemy you can see ends its turn within 5 feet of an ally of yours who is within 60 feet of you, you can use your reaction, expend 1 use of your Bardic Inspiration to move up to half your speed. Then roll your Bardic Inspiration die, and the ally can move a number of feet equal to 5 times the number rolled. I actually really like this. Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. That's a lot of fun. That's a really cool ability. Yeah, I know. I really like Inspiring Movement. You can use your reaction, expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration. You immediately move half of your speed, so your average speed is 30, so you're going to be able to move immediately 15 feet. So I think the idea is that you're moving 15 feet towards this enemy, and then you're moving the enemy, let's say you roll maximum on your Bardic Inspiration die, 30 feet back. Once again, this is 3rd level, so D6. Whoa, wait. D12, that's going to be nuts. So d6, average roll is 3.5. We'll say 4. 5 times 4, that's 20 feet. You move them 20 feet back, you move yourself 15 feet up. So you basically take their place in a kind of Battlemaster style maneuver. I really like that. And that fits the idea of the Bard of Dance, because you are basically spinning them around the battlefield and taking their place and switching locations. That's a really cool ability. Only one thing I would caution on is if you roll, by the time you're getting to 15th level and your Bardic Inspiration die is a d12, and you roll maximum on there, that's 60 feet of movement for the creature you are moving. I don't know if, once again, high level stuff doesn't really happen a lot. You don't get into a ton of games that get into super high level stuff where you're 15th level or whatnot. You might play a one shot in that regard, but like the majority of campaigns that I've been a part of and have seen don't really get to that level. So take that with a grain of salt, but that's like the maximum thing that you could do. But once again, as just an ability here, where you're basically spinning someone around the dance floor, taking their place and moving them around, I really like it. That's fun. That's so fun. 6th level, leading evasion. So once again, I'm kind of just blocking out the text here. Evasion is the ability that lets you automatically take half damage on dexterity saving throws and no damage on a successful saving throw. Yeah. So no damage on a success and half on a failure. Yeah. Why am I blanking that? It basically halves the damage and the different fail states. So leading evasion. When you are subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, and you only take half damage if you fail. That's the standard evasion. If any creatures within 5 feet of you are making the same dexterity saving throw, you can share this benefit for them for that save. Can't use this feature if you have the incapacitated condition. If any creatures within 5 feet of you are making this dexterity saving throw, you can share this benefit with them for that save. Now, granted, this is adjacent creatures, so they're within 5 feet of you, so this is... I get what they're going for. There's a part of me that really... I'm okay with giving the Bard of the Dance evasion. It fits in with the theme. Creatures within 5 feet of you who are making it get this exact same benefit. Would it not make more sense to just say they can immediately add your Bardic Inspiration die to their roll without having to expend any uses of it? Or would it be like they can roll with advantage? I think that would cut back on giving evasion out to everybody just by being it's adjacent to you. How many combats in 5e are really limited by attacks of opportunity, which means that players get clumped up and don't move a lot. And so I can see that this subclass is trying to fix that whole shindig. So leading evasion here sort of works counterintuitively, where if you're trying to be able to allow other people to move around and have freedom of movement, this only triggers if you are immediately adjacent to someone. So I think maybe if you want to buff it, not buff it, but if you want to change it slightly, if any creatures within 10 feet of you are making the same dexterity saving throw, they have advantage on the check. Or if any creatures within 10 feet of you are making the same dexterity saving throw, you can immediately expend one use of your Bardic Inspiration, rolling it, and then all of those creatures gain the benefits of that roll. I think that works a little bit better since, once again, you're still getting evasion at 6th level, which is huge. I'm pretty sure that's when it comes online for rogues. This is essentially a better version of evasion. Actually, wait, doesn't it come online for rogues at 7th level? Coincidentally, they're in Playtest Packet 2. So let's go ahead and take a quick scroll on over to the rogue. Okay, we are over here at the rogue in Playtest Packet 2 here. They actually get evasion at 9th level. So to have the bard get a better version of evasion at 6th level, similar to it cutting in on the monk previously with the above, this one is now kind of cutting in on the rogue. So once again, I'm not 100% sure if that's intentional, but I'm not a fan of it per se. Maybe since it is a 6th level ability, if maybe we don't give evasion, maybe we just say you can expend a use of your bardic inspiration die, and you and all creatures of your choice within a 10-foot radius of you can use the roll of your bardic, can gain a bonus to a dexterity saving throw equal to a roll of your bardic inspiration die. So that's giving more unique abilities for a bardic inspiration die. It's turning it into a reaction to a dexterity saving throw, and it gives a similar benefit, but it doesn't, once again, it doesn't step on the toes of another class, which is what I think. It's really funny that this is the school of dance, because like an untrained dancer, it is stepping on the toes of every other class that it is trying to steal from. Leading evasion kind of knocks into the rogue, it knocks into the monk, because I know that they get that as well. The previous ability stepped on the toes of the monk again. I think that this class needs to be reined in and have some instruction put into it, where it's not going to be I'm trying to think of a reason why anyone wouldn't want to play a bard for the first 10 levels. Like a bard of the College of Dance, you gain evasion at 6th level, you gain the ability to do unarmed strikes at, well, I mean, okay, that's not going to be an issue really at lower levels, but it's still really good. You gain all of the previous features. You get the counter charm. You get, like, for the first 9 levels of this bard, why would you play any other class? So another thing at 6th level, you get tandem footwork. When you roll initiative, you can spend 1 use of your bardic inspiration if you don't have the incapacitated condition. When you do so, roll your bardic inspiration die and choose a number of creatures within 60 feet of yourself. You can choose yourself up to a number equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of 1 creature. That's a lot of parentheticals. Each of them gains a bonus to their initiative equal to the number rolled. Why can't we just do this for the previous one and have that be the saving throw? That would be actually a really cool thing if you're like facing a meteor swarm or something, where everyone on the battlefield gets to dance around it slightly and have a tandem footwork. I like it. Maybe these two abilities here can just be combined, where you take tandem footwork when you roll initiative or make a dexterity saving throw, and you don't have the incapacitated condition. You can roll your bardic inspiration die and choose a number of creatures within 60 feet of yourself up to a number equal to your charisma modifier, gaining a bonus to their roll, to their d20 roll, to equal to the number rolled of your bardic inspiration die. I know I'm kind of rolling that off the cuff here, but I think that these two abilities should fundamentally work pretty much the same. One for bardic inspiration, sorry, not one for Bardic Inspiration, but one for Initiative and one for Dexterity saving throws. Because just giving the Bard Evasion at 6th level is nuts, especially considering that all of the other things that they can do. I do like the whole Initiative, gaining a bonus to that, etc. I actually really like Tandem Footwork as an ability. 14th level, Irresistible Dance. You always have the Otto's Irresistible Dance spell prepared. You can cast it without expending a spell slot. Once you cast this spell this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of the feature by expending, 4 uses of your Bardic Inspiration. What? Okay. So I don't have Otto's Irresistible Dance memorized as far as a spell. You can do it without expending a spell slot. That's fine as an ability. You can't do it again until you finish a long rest. Fine. So if you have your 14th level here, you've had a couple ability score improvements theoretically. If you have a Charisma modifier of 5, that leaves you with 1 Bardic Inspiration die. So Otto's Irresistible Dance must be a great spell if you're basically completely getting rid of all of your Bardic Inspiration abilities to cast it twice during one encounter. So let's just go ahead and pull up Otto's Irresistible Dance. Okay, Otto's Irresistible Dance. 6th level spell. Okay, so that's making some more of a reason why it would be more. Choose one creature that you can see within a range. The target begins a comic dance in place, shuffling, tapping its feet, and capering for the duration. Creatures that can't be charmed are immune to this spell. Okay. Concentration up to 1 minute, so that's 10 rounds of combat, so long as you are concentrating. Dancing creature must use all its movement to dance without leaving its space, so it can't move. Has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws and attack rolls. Okay, that makes sense. While the target is affected by this spell, other creatures have advantage on attack rolls against it. As an action, dancing creature makes a wisdom saving throw to regain control of itself. On a successful save, the spell ends. So no, as a fundamental level, this capstone ability for the Dance Bard, I'm for. I actually think maybe 3 uses of Bardic Inspiration. Just so that way you have more of your core ability left. But once again, I actually am fine with this. I like it. I'm down. Wait, you can also cast this with your spell slot since you have it prepared. So no, 4 uses of Bardic Inspiration to recharge it without using a spell slot. Yeah. So that's the Bard of the Dance. I like the ideas. I like the ideas that are put forward here. I wish it wasn't stepping on toes of other classes and making the Bard the unequivocal best choice to play at 1st level. Or really at 3rd level, because that's when you get your subclass. But like, why would you pick any other martial type unless you wanted to? Because like, if you don't get extra attack or multi-attack or whatever you want to call it until 5th level, Agile Strike, when you already get another attack as a bonus action or whatever when you expend a Bardic Inspiration die. So it's basically giving you 2-weapon fighting. So cool. You get unarmored defense, which is something that like fighters don't get. You get damage equal to maybe slightly better than an unarmed strike, so that's stepping on the toes of the monk. You get Inspiring Movement, which is kind of like a Battle Master maneuver, which, once again, I still really like that ability. Leading Evasion steps on the toes of the monk and the rogue, and it's also better than both the monk and the rogue get, so yeah, that's kind of a not great kind of thing. Tandem Footwork, I think, is a great idea for an ability and should be the way that Leading Evasion is handled, especially since you're getting both of them at 6th level. And then Irresistible Dance is, once again, a great ability that I actually like. So I do really like this subclass. I don't think it fixes the whole dead levels from level 11 to level 19. But I still like it. I think that this is a really good subclass. I mean, it's a really good subclass in that it needs to be nerfed and pulled back a little bit. But no, I mean, from a design standpoint and from an idea standpoint, this is a really good first draft. And I cannot say the words first draft heavily enough. So let's look at the next let's look at the next Bardic subclass here, the College of Glamour. The College of Glamour traces its origins to the beguiling magic of the Feywild. The bards who study this magic weave threads of beauty and terror into their songs and stories, and the mightiest among them can cloak themselves in otherworldly majesty. Their performances stir up wistful longing for forgotten innocence, evoke unconscious memories of long-held fears, and tug at the emotions of even the most hard-hearted listeners. Okay. So, College of Glamour updates, since this was included in Xanathar's guide. I don't remember what it does, so let's just treat it as a new class, new subclass. And I don't want to go pull up my Bardic... Oh my gosh, I can't speak. I don't want to go pull my Xanathar's guide to everything to just compare it. I want to see, since this class is so fundamentally different to the Bard, I want to see if this subclass can stand on its own. Beguiling Magic. You always have the Charm Person and Mirror Image spells prepared. Charm Person I get. Mirror Image? Mirror Image is the one that creates illusory duplicates of yourself. Okay, I mean, Charm Person makes perfect sense. I'd say maybe Fast Friends instead of Mirror Image. I mean, yeah, I think that works better for the idea of beguiling, but whatever. In addition, immediately after you cast an enchantment or illusion spell, you can cause a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the target has the charmed or frightened condition, your choice. Frightened is a really powerful condition. Actually, both of those are really powerful conditions. For 1 minute, the target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself as on a success. So that's actually really powerful. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Okay, that brings it into line. You can also restore your use of the feature by expending 1 use of Bardic Inspiration. No action required. So this is a saving throw. Okay, I got... 1 use of Bardic Inspiration die for a saving throw against a condition that is your choice, but ultimately a pretty powerful one. I can make a concession that makes sense. Okay. So, I mean, the whole wisdom saving throw here is like the key line here. Like, you have to have this be a saving throw. Otherwise, this is way too powerful. 3rd level, Mantle of Inspiration. You can weave Fey magic into a song or dance to fill others with vigor. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of Bardic Inspiration, as normal, rolling a Bardic Inspiration die. When you do so, choose a number of other creatures within 60 feet of yourself, up to a number equal to your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1 creature. Each of them gains a number of temporary hit points equal to 2 times the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die, and then each of them can use its reaction to move up to its speed without provoking it. Okay. You know how I was saying give different abilities for your Bardic Inspiration dice? I feel like this should just be part of the core Bard class. and have it be you gain the option to use the D20 test. You can roll the Bardic Inspiration die and gain 2 times the number rolled temporary hit points. That way it also caps it out at 1 creature, the one who is rolling the Bardic Inspiration die. Or you can expend the Bardic Inspiration die to move up to your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Essentially, yeah. I feel like that should be core to the Bardic Inspiration ability, or maybe something that gets unlocked at later levels to continue the whole giving the class more core identity uses for Bardic Inspiration. Because you weave Fey magic into a song or dance to fill others with vigor. Okay, but this doesn't really fit with that idea. I mean, temporary hit points, yeah, that counts as vigor, but then allowing them to move up to their speed without provoking opportunity attacks, how does that fit this description? Like, what is the fantasy of being able to move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks here? I don't know. That's a question for the designers. 6th level, Mantle of Majesty. You always have the command spell prepared. Cool. As a bonus action, you can cast Command without expending a spell slot, and you take on an unearthly appearance for 1 minute, or until your concentration ends, as if you were concentrating on a spell. I like this. It's sort of a form of dread thing, but a form of Fey. During this time, you can cast Command as a bonus action without expending a spell slot. Okay. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against the command you cast with this feature. That makes sense. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Yeah, no kidding. You can also restore your use of this feature by expending a spell slot of 3rd level or higher. What? Hang on, let's take a look at the command spell here. Command. So that way I'm, not completely crazy. Okay, so command is a 1st level spell. You speak a 1-word command to a creature you see within range. They must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, so there is a saving throw, or follow the command on its next turn. It has no effect if the target is undead, doesn't understand your language, or is directly harmful. Okay. So this is just taking a 1st level spell, turning it from an action into a bonus action, and then if they're already charmed by you, they automatically fail. I'm actually really down for this. I was thinking command was a little bit higher level or a little bit beefier, but the fact that there is a saving throw for it, that you only get to do as a bonus action without expending a spell slot during this sort of heightened state, I actually think that this is a pretty good ability. I think this is pretty decent. Is it powerful? Yes. But the fact that the command is a saving throw here, and you can't do more than 1 leveled spell per long rest. Sorry, not one more than that would be a horrible homebrew rule. That you can't do more than 1 leveled spell per turn. That helps rein this in a whole lot. So, no, I'm down. Mantle of Majesty, that's a really cool ability. Doesn't really give much of the fantasy of it, much like this one here. Like, you weave Fey magic into a song or dance to fill others with vigor. What's the fantasy for this? I wanna know. Nonetheless, I think it's a good ability. 14th level, so right in the middle of the dead levels. Here, let's see what special bard thing that this lets you do. As a bonus action, you can assume a magically majestic presence for 1 minute, or until you have the incapacitated condition. It seems like incapacitated is going to be a new, heavily used condition, because I believe we saw that several times with the monk, and now we've seen it several times with the bard. For the duration, for 1 minute, so 10 rounds of combat, whenever any creature hits you with an attack roll for the first time on a turn, the attacker must succeed on a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC, or the attack misses. And the creature recoils. So this is and then once you assume this presence, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Okay. It would be really cool if the Mantle of if this could be the same special state as your Mantle of Majesty. So as a bonus action, you enter this heightened state where you can command as a bonus action without expending a spell slot. And then at 14th level, when you enter this state, you can do the whole command thing, but then also you gain this where the attacker must make a charisma saving throw or just miss. This is a powerful ability. You know what I think would kind of help, since this is going to be a lot of dice every time the attacker, for the duration, whenever any creature hits you with an attack roll for the first time on a turn. Okay, so this has what I was going to say. The first time on a turn. So once this hits, oh no, this is still every attacker. Okay, so the idea I was having was to make this similar to a Displacer Beast. Especially since this is Fey themed, Displacer Beast kind of makes sense. You assume this magically majestic presence from 6th level and above. While you're in this presence, whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can have them roll a charisma saving throw or miss. Then you can do that once per turn, having the charisma saving throw or miss. And then after that, if they hit you, it disrupts this majestic presence and they don't have to do... For the first time any creature hits you. So is this anytime a creature hits you? So the first time they make a charisma save and miss, and then the next time they attack, if they have multi-attack, they don't have to make the charisma save, so they'll just hit when they hit. I would like clarification on this. And then also if there's like 2 creatures who are attacking you, each with multi-attack, first one hits, you charisma save them into a miss. Second attack, hits or misses, it doesn't actually matter. Then the next creature, is their first attack going to be they have to charisma save against you or miss on a hit, and then the second attack is as normal. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to check out when we see the official video on the D&D YouTube channel, to see if they clarify this, because one, this is a lot of dice that are being rolled, so that's going to increase the time of combat, and so it's going to slow things down. Secondly, once again, this is just a powerful ability to turn hits into misses. Once again, it's not a thing that is unique to the Bard class. I mean, lots of abilities can turn hits into misses. But once again, I just want to see what this is all about. Okay, so College of Lore. This is the one that was also published in Playtest Packet number 2. Bards of the College of Lore plumb the depths of magical knowledge, collecting spells and secrets from sources as diverse as scholarly tomes, mystical rites, and peasant tales. The college's members gather in libraries and universities to share their lore with one another. They also meet at festivals or affairs of state where they can expose corruption, unravel lies, and poke fun at self-important figures of authority. Okay, so this is like your archetypal bard. This is like the core bard subclass, which is why it was in the Playtest Packet 2 and is the one that's in the system reference document right here. Oof. So let's go ahead and see what they did to it as far as design notes updates. Bonus proficiencies has gone back to allowing any skill to be chosen. So I guess that's a reference to something that was changed in Playtest Packet 2 here. So let's just go ahead and take a quick look at that. We're in the rogue. Okay, so if we scroll right up here back to the bard, past the ranger. Okay. Bard subclasses, College of Lore. You gain 3 skill proficiencies, Arcana, History, and Nature. If you already have one of these, choose a proficiency you like and gain that proficiency. So that's a nice quick build feature. So here you just gain proficiency with 3 skills of your choice. I would say, if as far as wording goes in this, to do the exact same thing that they did way back here, several pages ago, with expertise. Performance and persuasion are iconic choices for a bard, as if you have proficiency in them. I would say to just have that quick build option in here. Typically, College of Lore bards have Arcana, History, and Nature as proficiencies. So it would just kind of, once again, it fleshes it out, but it does add to the fantasy of the subclass. So, that's not it. Cutting words. This is the ability that everyone loves. Cutting words can once more reduce damage. Why I couldn't say that, I'm not sure. The damage reduction was absent in the previous Bard playtest because of the now removed healing option in Bardic Inspiration. Okay. So wait, what did Cutting Words do then? When a creature that you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an ability check or attack roll, you can expend a Bardic Inspiration as a reaction, subtracting it from the creature's roll, potentially turning it into a failure. So it's... Okay, so that's what that is. Honestly, I feel like that's not a bad thing to have in Cutting Words. I think that's part of just the standard thing. So they removed that, and so now you can use your wit to supernaturally distract or confuse others. When a creature you can see within 60 feet makes a damage roll or succeeds on an ability check or attack roll, you can use your reaction to expend Bardic Inspiration, rolling that die and subtracting it from the creature's roll, reducing the damage or potentially turning the success into a failure. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how Cutting Words works in the SRD and in the PHB. So let's just go ahead and do a quick double check, sanity check and whatnot. But once again, I think that makes sense as far as why they pulled it out, because they're doing the healing with Bardic Inspiration, and then why they're putting it back in, because they got rid of that. So, College of Lore. Cutting Words. At 3rd level, you learn how to use your wit to distract, confuse, and otherwise sap the confidence and competence of others. When a creature that you can see within 60 feet of you, maybe see and hear? I don't know, bards are, musical, so I feel like hearing would be important, especially since it's cutting words, and that's implies speaking. When a creature that you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, an ability check, or a damage roll, you can use your reaction to expend one of your uses of Bardic Inspiration, rolling a Bardic Inspiration die and subtracting the number rolled from the creature's roll. You can choose to use this feature after the creature makes its roll, but before the DM determines whether the attack roll or ability check succeeds or fails, or before the creature deals its damage. The creature is immune if it can't hear you, or if it's immune to being charmed. So it basically works the exact same way, but they got rid of the whole order of operations here, because it happens when it succeeds on an ability check or an attack roll. So once again, that also is going to be a good detector, because you automatically know when a creature succeeds, even if it's an opponent. I don't know if I like the whole you automatically know if it's a success. Same with the Bardic Inspiration here. I think having ambiguity in understanding if it is a success or not is not a negative. Now I can understand for like organized play at like adventurers leagues, or like if there is a like special live stream or something, you can say having successes and such is a dramatic moment, and knowing when you succeed and fail against an opponent. I can see how that can be done dramatically. I personally like it as a mystery because it leans more into verisimilitude. And that is how I would personally do it for my game, and how I personally am doing it for my game, and how I would do it at my table, where there is more verisimilitude, but I don't know. It's something I'd work with my players on for first and foremost, because the game is theirs. So fundamentally, it's the same thing. They got rid of the clause where the creature needs to hear you. Sorry, that if it doesn't work, the ability doesn't work if the creature can't hear you. So I think that they could just say that a creature that you can see and can hear within 60 feet of you. Oh well. As far as the ability stands, it fundamentally works the same, and that's fine with me. 6th level, Magical Discoveries. You learn 2 spells of your choice, can come from any spell list or any combination thereof, which, once again, that's a really cool thing that you can do, because you can choose your spell list at 1st level when you get spellcasting, but then immediately becomes completely useless when you get to 10th level, and you just automatically have all spell lists. So not only is that stepping on your choice and uniqueness as a bard at 10th level, now it's also stepping on your subclasses cool thing that they can do. A spell you choose must be a cantrip or a spell for which you have spell slots as shown on the table. Same thing as spellcasting. You always have the chosen spells prepared, and whenever you gain a bard level, you can replace one of the spells with another spell that meets the requirements above. That's a really nice way of handling it, and having basically saying this spell always will count as a bard spell for you. I like the way that was handled. I like the wording there. 14th level, Peerless Skill. When you make an ability check or attack roll and fail, you can expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration. Roll the Bardic Inspiration die, and then add the number rolled to the d20, potentially turning a failure into a success. On a failure, the Bardic Inspiration isn't expended. So once again, you're knowing automatically if you fail an ability check. So take that as a note. Add the number to the d20. Actually, I don't mind this. I actually think this is a pretty cool ability. So if you roll the die and you still fail, it's not expended. So there is no reason not to try when you do fail. So no, that's fine. It's a bit of a... It does feel a little bit like a weaker 14th level ability. But once again, I'm not opposed. I think it's not bad. College of Valor. So this one is also in the player's handbook. Bards of the College of Valor are daring storytellers whose tales keep alive the memory of the great heroes of the past. These bards sing the deeds of the mighty, both past and present, in vaulted halls or to crowds gathered around great bonfires. They travel to the land to witness great events firsthand and to ensure that the memory of these events don't pass from the world. With their songs, they inspire new generations to reach the same heights of accomplishment as the heroes of old. Okay, so updates from the 2014 book. There's not a lot here. That's interesting. Martial training. Oh gosh, are they giving weapon mastery here? Formerly bonus proficiencies, now allows you to use a weapon as a spellcasting focus. Awesome. To cast spells from your bard spell list, often requested. Okay, I'm fine with that. It's not giving away more weapon mastery. It's not diluting the fighter even more than it already kind of has been by tapping into that with the martials, and making weapon mastery as ubiquitous as spellcasting. Combat Inspiration has 2 changes. 1, the defense option is now triggered by being hit. Okay. And 2, the offense option works with attacks of any kind, not just weapon attacks. Circumstantial, but I do like that. Okay, so Combat Inspiration. You can use your wit to turn the tide of battle. A creature that has a bardic inspiration die from you can use it for one of the following effects. Defense. When the creature is hit by an attack roll, the creature can use its reaction to roll the bardic inspiration die and add the number rolled to its AC against that attack, potentially causing the attack to miss. So this is a single attack shield, essentially. A shield that is random between a +1 and a +6 at 3rd level, and a +1 and a +12 at 15th and higher. So I'm fine with, I mean, that's powerful, but it's still cool. I'm not against that, especially since it's only against one attack, and it isn't lasting until like the start of your next turn, like a shield spell would. So combat inspiration for defense, I actually do like that. Combat inspiration for offense. Immediately after the creature hits a target with an attack roll, the creature can roll the bardic inspiration die and add the number rolled to the attack's damage against the target. So that's just plus 1d6 to plus 1d12. That's not bad. Martial training. You gain proficiency with martial weapons and armor training. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Okay, sorry. You gain proficiency with martial weapons and armor training with medium armor and shields. In addition, you can use a simple or martial weapon as a spellcasting focus to cast spells from your bard spell list. I like that. I like that quite a lot. If you have a magical weapon, like a +1 short sword, would you be able to get that +1 to your spellcasting focus as well? I would like that to be the way that that works. 6th level, you get extra attack. This is your multi-attack, so you can attack twice instead of once when you take the attack action on your turn. 14th level, battle magic. After you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can now make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. Okay, so this is kind of your combat. You know, yeah, this is fine. I like this. I would be interested in playing a College of Valor Bard. Maybe not this Bard. This Bard, actually, I would enjoy playing this Bard up to 9th level. So let's go ahead and quickly jump right on over to the official D&D YouTube channel, just to see what the designers have to say about this class, and about the changes that they've made to it. Okay, so Bard right here.
So there are some changes to the Bard that we're going to be seeing on our Arcana, and what subclasses do we get?
So each class has a number of refinements in it, as well as the subclasses. So I recommend everyone watching these videos to go to the classes and subclasses and read the little update lists for all of the details. While you and I can kind of talk about the overview,
right,
but there is so much material here that we'd be here for 3 hours if we went in and talked about each little thing.
And remember,
We've been here for about 2, so.
There are the designer notes. Like, those
Yes.
are very, very helpful for each of these classes. The designer
Exactly.
notes kind of walk you through what has changed.
Exactly. In the Bard, we have a new version of Vicious Mockery. This cantrip is now Bard exclusive, and as a part of making it Bard exclusive, we have increased its damage. The spell now, rather than dealing 1d4 damage, deals 1d6.
Okay, that's actually a feature that we didn't go over because I didn't know that it was a thing. I mean, if it does the exact same thing as, standard Vicious Mockery, upgrading its damage size and its average damage roll by 1, I don't know if that really is going to change a ton. Does it even say? I don't think so. Okay, well, nonetheless, that's still an important change because Vicious Mockery is fundamentally the Bard spell. So let's just take a quick look at what D&D Beyond says for it. Vicious Mockery. Okay. So, this is a cantrip. It deals 1d6, so I guess it will also increase by 1d6 at 5th, 11th, and 17th levels to 2, 3, and 4d6. So 1d6 psychic damage and disadvantage on the next attack roll before the end of its turn. Let's just go ahead and do a quick search of the playtest packet 6 here for Vicious Mockery. So this is... Yep, it is... Wait, disadvantage on the next attack roll before the end of its turn. Oh yeah, it is literally the exact same thing, just upgraded by a die size. So that is perfectly fine in my books.
One of the biggest new things in the park is we're experimenting in this new version of the class with allowing you to choose which of the 3 big spell lists, Arcane, Divine, or Primal, is your primary spell list as a bard. So investigating the playtest feedback that we've gotten on the bard, not only as a part of this playtest, but over the past many years since D&D Next, people love the bard's flexibility. This idea of being sort of the jack of all trades, not only with skills, but also with magic as represented by magical secrets. And so what we've decided...
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that the whole choosing your own spell list at the start is a really good idea. The thing that I think immediately counteracts it, though, is at 10th level you get all of them, and so it becomes less indicative of your journey as a bard, but more you just get this class feature and now you automatically can learn any spell.
To do is, what if we embed that right there in the main spellcasting feature of the class, where you decide as a bard player, is my bard an arcane bard, a primal bard, or a divine bard, which then pushes you in some very different directions thematically and also in terms of the spells that are available to you to cast. This then builds really nicely up to magical secrets at 10th level, where then it's opened up, and just as in 2014, you can start picking spells from any of the 3 big spell lists. And so really we've leaned into the flexibility of this class to be...
Okay, so I mean, I get what he's saying. Maybe I'm coming off too harsh. But the way he's phrasing it is you can begin to start picking from all of the different different spell lists in a similar way to how Magical Secrets worked in the 2014 Player's Handbook, where at certain levels you could gain a couple spells from other class lists. I think that since you're basically getting this now Magical Secrets at every level when you gain it, it starts to dilute your initial choice of spell list instead of allowing you to kind of stick by the bard that you were, and so it genericifies, for lack of an existing term in the creation of one thereof, into it discounts the bard that you were before. It takes 1/3 of that uniqueness kind of away. And so I like the idea of you getting magical secrets and being able to steal spells from other classes, from other spell lists, but it can't take away from your initial choice as a bard. I think that having some restriction allows for you to have greater creativity within the bounds of that restriction, and that by immediately saying that there are no restrictions, you've lost identity.
The dabbler, the magical performer who is dipping into different areas to get their magical power, just as they also have broad ability with skills. They also get expertise. Bards are all about using whatever tools are available to them to entertain people.
But what tool is a divine spell list? I mean, like, you've learned some hymns, you've learned some stuff like that, but, like, what tool is the divine spell list? What tool is the primal spell list? If you're a good bard, you can take any story, whether it be tied to the arcane, to the divine, to the primal, and make it entertaining and kind of use that to thrill people around the campfire or in a noble court. I think that's built into part of the reason why being able to choose your spell list at first level as a part of your spell casting makes so much sense and is fundamentally a good idea for the bard. And it feeds into that idea of being a magical tinkerer. Whereas once you have access to every spell list, it becomes less tinkering with and learning spells that you would not normally get, and more just, I can do this now.
To mess with their enemies and to bolster their friends.
How do you see, besides the spell list, what makes them unique between like a primal bard just in your head, a primal bard, an arcane bard, a divine bard?
Some of the main ways in which your bard will end up not only
Good question.
being flavored differently, but having different functionality, is if you choose, say, the primal list, which, by the way, is a nice nod to the first edition bard, because the first edition bard did not have their own spell list, but instead were required to kind of work their way through elements of other classes, and that.
Yeah, the original D&D bard, you started off as a fighter, then I believe you took levels in thief, before that was rogue, and then after that you could take levels in bard, with the whole idea of that being you've now experienced adventuring so much, and so that you can sing of you and your party's exploits and tell those stories out and as a bard. Whereas I think a lot of the 5e bard stuff dips into the whole, not only are you telling perhaps your stories and stories of your party, but now you're able to tell other people's stories as well. And I think that is, as far as being progressive as in its societal terms, a good idea, because you're willing to and able to keep memories alive, as the description of the College of Valor bard. But I think it leans more into the sort of artistic nature as you are interpreting and reinterpreting and sharing ideas with the rest of the world, with your party, and it gives more oomph to your not to your vicious mockery, but to your bardic inspiration as your core class feature. I think that whole idea of being able to tell other people's stories through spellcasting, through understanding the arcane arts and being willing to share it, makes you much more of a bard than having just gone through a bunch of other class levels. So I think that fundamentally is a good change from over the history of D&D. Now, what he's saying here about being able to choose your spell list, that does impact your past as a bard, but I'm interested in hearing the further on about how it harkens back to the whole OG D&D.
Included getting druid spells,
Right.
and so being able to have
Perhaps got a couple of the classes wrong. I'm a little bit younger than one who would have played original D&D when it came out.
a primal bard is actually a really nice nod to the original bard back in the 1970s, because bards back then were associated with druids, in addition to bards getting to dabble in many other areas. So let's say you choose that primal path for your bard. That means you're going to have magic that, rather than focusing on bolstering and beguiling people, you are going to have magic that can influence nature, can, summon and guide animals. You can this is going to be the bard who can play their flute and lead along, the swarm of rats or whatnot. This is in contrast to the arcane bard, who is the sort of classic illusionist and enchanter bard. And then the divine bard is, you can imagine a bard who honed their performance craft in a temple or a shrine, and they will be able to use their magic to heal people, to buff people, while still having also powerful enchantment capabilities in the form of spells like command or calm emotions. And so with each one, you get to decide, with arcane, do you want to be more of the enchanter or illusionist, or do you want to be, dancing or playing music or telling a story that causes vines to move as a primal bard, or again, do you want to be like the temple singer or dancer who was a part of a religious order, and that's how you developed your musical ability.
Okay, so that actually helped answer a lot of questions. But here, let me just go ahead, put up the one side bracket for a quick second, and I'm going to go grab my OG PHBs, and so that way we can go ahead and actually take a look at what was required of original bards. And just because I love learning about the history of D&D, and I love sharing that information as well, and just being able to read classical books and such on the material. So let's go ahead and take a quick pause, and I'm going to go grab that. Okay, so I have actually come back here now, and I do have my OG, oops, sorry, I'm shifting in the wrong direction, my OG D&D Player's Handbook here. And the Bard information is not with your standard class stuff. It is instead on page number 117 as appendix number 2 for the Bard. So here, let me just go ahead and read you some of its stuff. Appendix 2, Bards. As this character class subsumes the functions of 2 other classes, fighters and thieves, and tops them off with magical abilities, it is often not allowed by dungeon masters. Even though this presentation is greatly modified from the original Bard character class, and unfortunately this is the oldest D&D book that I have, so if you have the even older ones, please let me know, because I would love to look into getting some more of them. I love classic D&D history, and I love sharing it. So even though this presentation is greatly modified from the original Bard character class, it is offered as supplemental to the system, and your DM will be the final arbiter as to the inclusion of bards in your campaign. Bard abilities. A bard must have scores of 15 or better in the following abilities: strength, wisdom, dexterity, and charisma. Furthermore, a bard must have at least a 12 score in intelligence and a 10 in constitution. A bard must be a human or half-elven. The class. Bards begin play as fighters, and they must remain exclusively fighters until they have achieved at least the 5th level of experience. Anytime thereafter, and in any event prior to attaining the 8th level, they must change their class to that of thieves. Again, sometime between 5th and 9th level of ability, bards must leave off thieving and begin clerical studies as druids. But at this time they are actually bards, and under druidic tutelage. Bards must fulfill the requirements in all of the above classes before progressing to Bard's Table 1. They must always remain neutral, but can be chaotic, evil, good, or lawful neutral if they wish. As far as a note regarding Bard Table 1, which I'm not going to have on screen here, but number of spells by druid spell level shows the number and level of druid cleric spells which the bard is able to use during one day. The bard selects which spells he or she wishes to have for that day, praying to see if his god will grant them, and grants them exactly as a druid of that level would, but never beyond the 12th level of druid ability until the 23rd level is reached. 23rd level bards cast their spells at 13th level druid ability. Bards can read scrolls which contain druid spells. Okay, so that is the main kind of bard information in this book here. Once again, I'm sorry, I'm doing the whole shifting in the opposite direction that applies to this video. Another thing that I found interesting in looking through bards during the small movie magic cutting of this was I went ahead and I pulled my second edition player's handbook out as well, and just to kind of rebuild in the idea of the bard as this sort of essential product of multiclassing and kind of in telling its story. In this book here, the bard is a subclass to the rogue, now actually called the rogue. So here, let's go ahead and take a quick peek through what the second edition player's handbook says. Bard, ability requirements, dexterity 12, intelligence 13, charisma 15. Prime requisite, dexterity, charisma. Races allowed, human, half-elf. The Bard is an optional character class that can be used if your DM allows. He makes his way in life by his charm, talent, and wit. A good Bard should be glib of tongue, light of heart, and fleet of foot when all else fails. To become a Bard, a character must have a dexterity of 12 or more, an intelligence of 13 or more, and a charisma of 15 or more. And then a Bard, and then it lists the prime requisites. A bard can be lawful, neutral, or chaotic, good or evil, but must always be partially neutral. Only by retaining some amount of detachment can he successfully fulfill his role as a bard. A bard, by his nature, tends to lean towards many different skills. He is a jack of all trades, but master of none. Although he fights as a rogue, he can use any weapon. He can wear any armor up to and including chainmail, but he cannot use a shield. All bards are proficient singers, chanters, or vocalists and can play musical instruments of the player's choice, preferably one that is portable. Additional instruments can be learned if the optional proficiency rules are used. The bard can learn 2 instruments for every proficiency slot spent. In his travels, a bard also manages to learn a few wizard spells. Like a wizard, a bard's intelligence determines the number of spells he can know and the chance to know any given spell. Excuse me. These he keeps in a spellbook, abiding by all the restrictions on memorization and spell use that bind a mage, especially in the prohibition of armor. Hence, a bard will tend to use his spells more to entertain and impress than to fight. Since bards are dabblers rather than full-time wizards, their spells tend to be gained by serendipity and happenstance. In no case can a bard choose to specialize in a school of magic. Beginning bards do not have a selection of spells. A second-level bard begins with 1 to 4 spells, chosen either randomly or by the DM. An intelligence check must still be made to see if the bard can learn a given spell. The bard is not guaranteed to know read magic, as this is not needed to read the writings in a spellbook. The bard can add new spells to his spellbook as he finds them, but he does not automatically gain additional spells as he advances in level. All spells beyond those he starts with must be found during the course of adventuring. The bard's casting level is equal to his current level. Skipping forward a little bit here. The bard can also influence reactions of groups of NPCs when performing before a group that is not attacking and not intending to attack in just seconds. The bard can try to alter the mood of listeners. He can try to soften their mood or make it uglier. The method can be whatever is most suitable to the situation at the moment: a fiery speech, a collection of jokes, a sad tale, a fine tune played on a fiddle, a haunting lute melody, or a heroic song sung from the homeland. Everyone in the group listening must roll a saving throw versus paralyzation if the crowd is large. Make saving throws for groups of people using average hit dice. The die roll is modified by -1 for every 3 experience levels of the bard, round fractions down. If the saving throw fails, the group's reaction can be shifted 1 level, see the reaction section in the DMG, toward either friendly or hostile end of the scale at the player's option. Those who make a successful saving throw have their reaction shifted 1 level toward the opposite end of the scale. The music, poetry, and stories of the bard can also be inspirational, rallying friends and allies. If the exact nature of an impending threat is known, the bard can heroically inspire his companions, immortalizing them in word and song, granting a +1 bonus to attack rolls, or a +1 bonus to saving throws, or a +2 bonus to morale, particularly useful in large battles, to those involved in melee. The bard must spend at least 3 full rounds singing or reciting before the battle begins. So that's just the notes from that player's handbook there. Actually, before I put that all away, one interesting thing that was put in here as a small blue highlight as far as the historical connotations of bards here, it reads, "In precise historical terms, the title bard applies only to certain groups of Celtic poets who sang the history of their tribes in long, recitative poems. These bards, found mainly in Ireland, Wales, and Scotland, filled many important roles in their society. They were storehouses of tribal history, reporters of news, messengers, and even ambassadors to other tribes. However, in the AD&D game, the bard However, in the AD&D game, the bard is a more generalized character. Historical and legendary examples of this type include Alan Adale, Will Scarlet, Amergin, and even Homer. Indeed, every culture has its storyteller or poet, whether he is called bard, skald, fili, jongleur, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, or something else." So now that we've had that kind of primed into us, I actually do really like the idea of... I was saying I was skeptical about it because I couldn't really think of much story usage for a primal bard, but kind of looking back through the history of the game, I actually do think that that's a really cool idea, to have a primal bard, since they do have their roots in druidic, or in at least druidism. It's really cool. So let's go ahead and minimize back into the Unearthed Arcana playtest packet introduction video here. And I'll go ahead and rehide the one corner bracket here, so that way Jeremy Crawford's face can show up without having squid tentacles and techno stuff showing over it.
I'm very excited for these distinctions. Those all make perfect sense for the bard. We've got this new 20th level feature specifically to words.
Yes. So we talk about in the bard's story this idea that the multiverse was spoken and signed into existence with the words of creation, which are echoed by spells like Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill. And so we thought, why not make bards the class who are just guaranteed to have Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill?
I completely agree with that idea, if that's the whole origin story for their multiverse, or really universe here. So no, if it's all spoken into existence by creator types, having the bard as a speaker and automatically granting them power word spells makes perfect sense.
And are able to cast them in a way that is more potent than others. And so part of the Words of Creation feature is that a bard who casts Power Word Heal or Power Word Kill can target 2 creatures with the spell rather than 1. This UA also includes a new version of Power Word Heal that turns it into a ranged spell so that it interacts better not only with this feature, but so that it functions like the other Power Word spells. As we go through and...
Okay, we didn't actually look into those 2 spells. We were just kind of assuming it was, heal and Power Word Kill, and sort of updated adaptations of those for the UA, and kind of bringing it in line since... Okay, fine, I guess that was a little bit lazy on my part, but the whole idea of bringing Power Word Heal in line with Power Word Kill, Power Word Stun, and the other power words, I'm completely down for, and And while I am hesitant to say that I trust Wizards of the Coast as far as legal stuff, as far as game design stuff, I can trust that they're doing so in a reasonable manner and that it kind of scales as far as what a 9th level spell should be.
And examine every element of.
Maybe I should. I'm realizing what I just said, and having read the Bard of the Dance and basically 10th level and beyond, let's go ahead and take a look at Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill, because regret is a thing. Okay, Power Word Heal is a 9th level enchantment spell, or abjuration. Why did that change? Okay, we're gonna just go to the actual. Okay, so that was just a typo. In the description notes here, Power Word Heal is an enchantment spell. Its range is increased to 60 feet. So let's just go ahead and take a quick look at what Power Word Heal is. It is a 9th level divine enchantment spell. Cast time of 1 action, range of 60 feet, verbal component only, instantaneous duration. A wave of healing energy washes over a creature you can see within range. The target regains all its hit points. Okay, so this is a straight 0 to 100 kind of. There's no hit point gain, it just regains all its hit points. I guess that does fit into the whole Words of Creation kind of thing. If the creature has the charmed, dazed, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned condition, that condition ends. If the creature has the prone condition, it can use its reaction to stand up. So that's a powerful spell, but that does feel like something that a 9th level spell should be. So, having done due diligence, let's go ahead and jump back to the video.
Game. We look for places like this where we can refine something so that it will be even more fun and interact better with other things in the game. And so the change to Power Word Heal is an example of this, where this 9th level spell would be way better, not as a touch spell, but as, like the other Power Word spells, something you can do at a distance.
Your magic is wrapped in words. Like
yes.
Sometimes, like, back to like Welsh mythology of knowing the true names of things.
And these are words that aren't just spoken. They can be signed, they can be...
Okay, so once again, this is an interesting point here, because bardic magic tied specifically to, what is it? Is it tied to words? Is it tied to actions? Is it tied to artistic expression? I mean, if we're doing power word, that's really more spoken. I mean, he's saying here signed and such.
Written, right. So it's, you can have a bard who's totally silent.
Yeah.
Is working this powerful magic. And that leads into the brand new subclass in this Unearthed Arcana
Dance.
for the bard, and that is the College of Dance.
Yes.
This is a subclass we've wanted to do for a long time, because dance, of course, is an important type of performance, and I'm excited for people to play with this subclass as we have been doing at the office, and seeing what it's like to play a bard who is all about using their body to work their magic. And there are features in this subclass that allow...
If they're saying, like, work your body to produce magic, I think there are probably other... Well, actually, doing, like, armpit fart sounds does not actually really work as a class mechanic, but, like... It seemed like the whole thing with Playtest Packet 6 here and the Bard of the Dance... okay, let's just go ahead and jump quickly right back to it. It's much more about maneuverability and such rather than casting spells. Inspiring movement. When an enemy you see ends its turn within 5 feet of an ally of yours, you can just kind of shift them around the battlefield. Leading evasion lets you succeed it lets you essentially have an automatic success on a spell save. Tandem footwork gets you higher initiative counts. The only thing that's tied to spell casting is your 14th level here with Irresistible Dance, and that gets you Otto's Irresistible Dance. I'm pretty sure the only dance-related spell. So I don't know if dance is really giving you new ways to use your spells and your spellcasting ability, but it's much more of a rogue style class. It's much more of a monk style class. It's much more of a fighter style one, where you're moving around the dance floor rather than dancing to create spells, whatever that would look like.
How this bard to be good at unarmed strikes, who can use their bardic inspiration to help other people move with them. So you can almost imagine this bard doing like flash mobs, like they able to suddenly cause a whole group of people to move with them, or boost people's initiative, that kind of thing.
It's a fun class, subclass.
Again, is an example of us exploring a fuller artistic landscape for this class that is all about the arts and performance.
Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of just jump back to chat. So as far as what the bard is here, we hear them talking about how they're updating their multiverse's origin story to have these words of power that are spoken into being, and how and I get that with that as their mythology, it kind of makes sense that that's what bard magic would be tied to, having different power words. Your power word heal, your power word kill. The thing is, I don't really like that idea. Here, let's go ahead and kind of look through what the fantasy of the bard is. I mean, we looked at our previous editions books here, where, bards are the poets who sang the history of their tribes in long recitative poems. They were storehouses of tribal history, reporters of news, messengers, and ambassadors. They are, like any culture that has a storyteller or poet, no matter what they're called, that's what a bard is. I mean, at least in classical D&D sense. And so here, let's go ahead and read the introduction to this class again, just to put into mind what Wizards of the Coast is wanting the fantasy of this class to be. Bard. Invoking magic through music, dance, and verse. Bards are an expert at inspiring others, soothing hurts, disheartening foes, and creating illusions. Bards believe that the creators of the multiverse spoke and signed it into existence, and that remnants of those words of creation still resound and glimmer on every plane of existence. The magic of bards is an attempt to harness those words, which transcend any language, and direct them to create new wonders. Because the words of creation resonate throughout the cosmos, different bards choose different approaches to their magic. Some bards practice their arts in temples or monasteries, drawing on the power of the outer planes to channel divine magic. Others listen to birdsong and the music of the wind, associate with druid circles, and wield primal magic. Still others immerse themselves in the study of magical lore, collecting scraps of mystic knowledge wherever their journeys take them, as they master the secrets of arcane magic. Ultimately, though, these various paths converge as the most accomplished bards learn to access almost the entire breadth of magic potential. Anything can inspire a new song or tale, so bards are fascinated by almost everything. They have a wide-ranging knowledge of many subjects and develop an aptitude to do almost anything well. Bards become masters of many things, including performing music, working magic, and making jests. Not every singer or poet in a tavern or jester in a royal court is a bard. Harnessing the words of creation requires hard work and some measure of natural talent that most troubadours and jongleurs lack. A bard's life is spent wandering across the land, gathering lore, telling stories, and living on the gratitude of audiences, much like any other entertainer. But bards' depth of knowledge and mastery of magic sets them apart. When I think of bard magic, I don't really think of different words that spoke a multiverse into being. I think that that's much more of a magic in general sort of thing. So while this is more personal, and this is kind of how I tend to rule what bard magic is in my tabletop games, campaigns, and sessions, and what have you, I think that bard magic is something that is more personal. It's sharing a story around a campfire and inspiring words and wills within the minds of another. It's less reshaping the land and creating universes and tapping into powers that defy odds, because the wizard can do that, the cleric can do that, the druid can do that. What makes the bard special? And I had ideas. I'd be chatting with friends on Twitter about these sort of things, but the first time I heard a description of what bard magic... Well, it wasn't even a description of bard magic. It was on a completely other corner of YouTube. It just hit me as one guy telling another guy a story, and the impacts that can have, that can lead. And it was like a light bulb went off over my head, and I said, that's it. That's exactly it. That's what bard magic is to me. And I'm going to play that clip for you, and that's going to kind of close out this video here, but I just want to understand. I want to know what you guys think bard magic is in your campaign settings. I would love to hear about what that sort of, how that manifests in your games in the comment section below. And ultimately, I would love to just understand how you think this Unearthed Arcana playtest packet fits into your idea of what a bard is, your idea of what bard magic is. Because while I think it taps into a lot of the ideas that they were going for here with these words of creation, I think, like when I was initially looking through it, I said this is a cleric ability at the 20th level. Because it feels like Wizards of the Coast is talking about spellcasters in general when they're talking about tapping into words of power. And bards are unique. They're special. And I think that by making them just another spellcaster in that sort of way, kind of eliminates some of that speciality. So, thank you guys all so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and disappear right now, and the video that the clips that you're about to see here, it comes from a YouTube channel that is significantly larger than mine. I'm currently sitting at 2.7 million subscribers. If you know the channel Wendigoon, this is from the video on the Brown Mountain Lights. I highly recommend watching this whole video, but as far as the clip that I'm going to show you, this, in my mind, is the epitome of what bard magic is. So, once again, thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Hopefully it won't take as long as this one did to come out. But without further ado, I'll be seeing you.
And that aura, that idea of monsters that you can't see, is something that permeates Appalachia. See, we are a very superstitious people, at least in our stories. And this group of people who spent decades dealing with poverty, famine, flood, and war. As you could imagine, several of these superstitions are pretty dark. I remember as a young boy, my grandfather would set me down, and he would tell me all kinds of scary stories. Stories from his family, the Cherokee, and their legends that ran through these hills, and stories of ghosts, monsters, boogeymen that would keep you up at night. However, the stories he told me never really scared me. I understood that objectively they were scary, and that the things that happened in them were decisively not good, but they never bothered me, because whenever he would tell me these things, he would just be excited. He would be so happy to share them. And anytime I'd asked him about that, I'd be like, how can you talk about this? It's such a scary, dark story. Why are you so okay with it? And he would always say, well, I've already heard it, and now I get to tell it to you. And I didn't get what he meant for a long time. But a lot of these stories were stories that his grandfather would tell him, and his grandfather before him, and generations back. And like I said earlier, a lot of these stories are never written down. They never exist outside of one person telling it to another. But there's a sacredness to that's hard to wrap your head around. These legends, these characters, they exist in my brain. They exist in my soul, so to speak. And whenever you give them to someone else, you're not writing it on paper so that any passerby could see. You are putting it in them. It is their soul now. It is a part of who they are. And there's something beautiful about, no matter how harrowing or disturbing the subject matter might be, that it is a piece of you that you are giving to someone else that will live on forever. I mean, it was my grandfather who originally told me stories of the Wendigo, and you can see how I took that to heart. Over the past few days, whenever I've just been harassing random people into telling me their stories about the lights, none of them were secretive about it. No one was like, oh, well, this is a family secret, you shouldn't pass it on. As soon as I told them what I'm doing, they all said, thank you for telling these stories. And that's not anything to point at me and say how great I am, but the privilege to pass these on, to tell these stories, and to have those pieces now, and to get to share them with you, to be the orator who holds a part of a legacy that outlived the person who made it and will outlive any of us to come, and to get to use those pieces to build something as immortal as these mountains. It's an honor. So I guess you could say, I've already heard these stories, and now I get to tell you.